Hey guys, today we have the David Childress, who you've seen many times on Ancient Aliens TV show. He has published so many books, but he has some fascinating information about Mount Kailash and other mountains. Welcome, David.
Hi, Praveen.
Because you've been to the Himalayas and you spent a long time there, what's the strangest mountain you've been to?
Probably the strangest mountain that I've been to is GowriShankar.
Gauri Shankar.
Gauri Shankar,
Okay.
which is in the Rolwaling Himal, north of Kathmandu, and just to the west of Mount Everest.
Okay. Okay.
So,
is it technically in India?
No,
or
it's in Nepal, and it's completely in Nepal. It's
Okay,
not
it's totally in Nepal.
Nepal. It's, I don't think it's even part of the border with Tibet. It's in Nepal.
Okay.
And GowriShankar is a very strange mountain because it's very similar to Mount Kailash
Okay.
in Tibet.
Okay.
Those two mountains are both famous because they are both the reputed home of Shankar,
Okay.
Shiva.
Shiva. Okay.
And it's so well known that Mount Kailash is the abode of Shiva,
Yes.
and so many Hindu and Buddhist pilgrims.
Yeah. Most
Go
people don't know about Mount Gaurishankar. I mean, most of the Hindus don't know about that. People only think, oh, Mount Kailash. But it's fascinating. So what is different?
So you have this second mountain, yeah. You have Mount Kailash as the abode of Shiva. But Shiva is also supposed to live on GowriShankar.
Okay. Okay.
And that mountain is a especially holy mountain in Nepal. And I think that most of the people in Nepal do know about GowriShankar, but outside of Nepal, I think people aren't really aware of it, and most tourists don't know about GowriShankar either.
Okay.
GowriShankar is a sacred mountain in Nepal, and the king of Nepal early on, he forbid anyone to climb
Oh, really?
GowriShankar.
So
No one is allowed to climb it. No, we didn't climb
climb
it. No,
Okay.
no one is allowed to climb.
Okay.
that
Okay.
mountain.
Why? Why is that?
That is because it is the abode of Shiva.
Okay.
So I'm always was so curious about why is Mount Kailash the abode of Shiva, and why is GowriShankar the abode of Shiva? What is special about those mountains? And we have in the United States, in Northern California, we have also a very special mountain called Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta.
Mount Shasta. It's in the very far north of California. It's near to the Oregon border. It's big forest there,
Okay.
and this is an area too where Bigfoot
Okay. Bigfoot.
is known to be. Yes, and that area it's well known.
Okay.
People very much generally believe in Bigfoot there.
Okay.
But they also believe in that area the strange legends of Mount Shasta.
Okay.
And Mount Shasta is a volcano, extinct volcano. It looks kind of like Mount Fuji in Japan or something like that.
Okay.
A mountain just by itself, a big, tall mountain with snow at the top of glaciers. There's many lava tubes and tunnels there.
Okay.
It's a big forest. There's no big cities nearby.
Okay.
Only a few small towns.
Okay.
There is one highway is going north up to Oregon.
Okay.
This is part of California that's not very populated at all. And people see UFOs
Okay.
coming out of the mountain, they claim.
Okay.
I've been there a couple of times. And back in the 1800s, even already, the strange legends of Mount Shasta began
Okay.
with a book called A Dweller on Two Planets.
A dweller on two
planets,
Okay.
yeah, by Phylos the Tibetan.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, so this
So
book...
we're going back to Tibet.
Now back to Tibet, yeah.
Okay.
But that book also talks about ancient masters,
Okay.
like the Rishis
Okay.
of the Ramayana, these masters, and some are Hindu, Chinese, other Hindu, Indians, others are Chinese, and in that book there's a master named Kwang,
Kwang.
and he shows this person, Walter Pierson, in the 1800s, hidden door
Okay.
to go into the mountain.
Oh, really?
Go inside.
Into Mount Shasta.
Into Mount Shasta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in that book,
Uh-huh.
inside of Mount Shasta
Uh-huh.
is like a ancient city.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with
Wow.
ancient masters, and they have vimanas.
Oh, wow.
There are people who are staying in there who
Okay.
maybe are living for a very long time.
Okay.
They're humans, perhaps there are also extraterrestrials there.
Okay.
They have a high technology coming from the ancient civilizations of Atlantis.
Uh-huh.
In that book, they talk about Atlantis
Okay.
and past lives.
Past lives.
Yeah, that book is also about reincarnation and past lives, but it's an American book
Okay.
from the late 1800s.
Okay.
It became a very popular book in the United States.
Okay.
Many people have read that book and they know about it. And when you go to Mount Shasta, everyone, they know about these stories. They've all heard
You've
them.
been to Mount Shasta?
Yes, and even one time when I was driving by Mount Shasta, I was speeding.
Okay.
And I got stopped by the police
Okay.
to give me a ticket for speeding.
Okay.
And I started talking to the policeman, and I said I was going, to Mount Shasta. And this policeman started telling me, "Oh yes, the Lemurians in Mount Shasta."
Oh, the Lemurians.
Yeah, Lemurians. Yeah, they often talk about that.
From where?
From Lemuria, which was in the Pacific.
Right. Right.
But in the book of A Dweller to Planets, they talk about Atlantis, actually.
Okay. Lemurians in.
Yeah, I mean.
Are they like secretly living somewhere in Mount Shasta?
Yeah, that's the story. Yes.
Okay.
And they're from Lemuria or Mount Shasta or Atlantis,
Okay.
and in a sense, ancient India. Yeah. So in your sense, the Lemuria is part of like the ancient India. And,
Right. Right.
the Ramayana, maybe the
Right.
Mahabharata
Oh, yeah,
stories,
yeah.
right? So, and I was always interested in all of that, and
Okay.
Vimanas, of
Okay.
course. From an early age, I was reading lots of books on this,
Okay.
and I knew stories about Mount Shasta too.
Okay. So, anything else about Shasta that's...
Well, here's the idea: is that there's a city inside Mount Shasta. It's an
Uh-huh.
ancient city.
Uh-huh.
There's a high technology there.
Inside the mountain.
Inside the mountain.
There's
yeah.
a secret door that's...
That's right, and even there are places where UFOs, flying saucers, or vimanas or something
Okay.
come out.
Okay.
People have frequently claimed to
Okay.
have seen that.
Okay.
I didn't, but
Okay.
I know I've never lived there.
Okay.
I've only been a visitor for a few days.
Okay.
To me, I think there's something to that, and many people in America, particularly California, are believers in that.
Okay.
So now back to Mount Kailash
Okay.
and Gauri Shankar.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought, I'm wondering if Mount Kailash is also some mountain like Mount Shasta.
Okay.
Mount Kailash is not a volcano.
Yeah.
Nor is Gauri Shankar.
Uh-huh.
Neither of these are volcanoes, but Mount
Right.
Shasta is a volcano, or an extinct one.
Okay.
So, interesting story too. I'm from Colorado,
Uh-huh.
and it's well known to everyone in Colorado that there's a mountain just west of Colorado Springs
Okay.
in southern Colorado,
Uh-huh.
and that mountain is called Cheyenne Mountain.
Cheyenne.
Cheyenne Mountain, named
Okay.
after an Indian tribe,
Okay.
the Cheyenne.
Uh-huh.
Now that mountain, it's not a volcano either. It's a granite peak.
Okay.
And what the American government did
Uh-huh.
after World War II, they decided to hollow that mountain out
Oh, really?
with all
Mount
of the
Cheyenne. They built a city.
That's right. They built the American government with the military.
Right.
They built a city inside that mountain, just a high-tech military city.
Oh, but it's not accessible by like people like us.
No, we
just
can't go
drive
there. No.
We can't.
There's a road going up to it, but then there's going to be gates.
Okay.
And the military's guarding it. You're now going to need to go beyond those gates. You'll need a special pass.
Okay.
Civilians are not allowed to go there at all.
Wow.
I mean, it's top secret place to go to, and with high security.
Uh-huh.
They admit they have it.
Okay.
I mean, they don't deny. Yes, we have this mountain. We've hollowed it out. It's a big mountain too.
Uh-huh.
There's a city inside it.
Uh-huh.
There are elevators. There's maybe even a train station deep underground.
Okay.
There's people living in there. There's high-tech radar and computers, and we don't know how many people are inside it. They're all
military,
and they're going to have high security clearance.
Okay.
So here's a city inside a mountain that we know about. It's very high tech, and it's real.
Yeah.
There's no question about this place. And so now we have also the stories of Mount Shasta. It's a kind of same thing, only it's an ancient place.
Yeah.
So now when I thought of Mount Kailash and Gauri Shankar, I thought, wow, is it possible that in those ancient times of the Rama Empire and the Mahabharata, of this high-tech time of India, when they have the Vimanas, these wars, the devastating weapons, other high-tech things. In my mind, they had whatever we have today. They could have had back then. There's no reason why anything we've invented today that couldn't be invented in the ancient past. There's no reason for that. We need to have the kind of technology we're talking about. You need electricity. You need metals. You need the power of flight. Knowledge of physics, also lasers, weapons, explosives, cutting machines that can cut through rock, granite, all of these things. And I believe they had that in ancient India, also in ancient Atlantis, in Egypt. They had that in South America too, at the places. I mean, to do those kind of megalithic walls and to lift giant stones, perfectly cut them and fitting them. I mean, they're doing something that's very high tech, extremely high tech, and it requires power tools, high technology, the ability to levitate stones and move them somehow at least with giant cranes, what we would do today. But I think they had the ability that was beyond our capability, with anti-gravity, levitation, cutting stones with lasers, maybe, who knows. So it occurred to me really that Mount Kailash might have this
city.
The same, a city inside it, or in ancient times it was also, a door was cut into Mount Kailash, and then some kind of city created inside the mountain. And
what about Gauri Shankar?
And Gauri Shankar, the same thing.
You think there's like an ancient city carved into the mountain of Gauri Shankar?
Oh, sure. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, I'm not claiming I've been into any of these places.
Understood.
Yeah, I've not been inside the Mount Shasta or Cheyenne Mountain. I mean, I've just seen these places with Mount Kailash. I've read books about it and seen many photos. And Mount Kailash is particularly unusual because it's by itself, and it's a giant pyramid, really, coming out of the Tibetan plateau. And you see it on all sides of the two lakes there. So many sadhus and holy men, they want to go there, and then they want to make a circumnavigation of the mountain.
Out of Mount Kailash, they do circumambulate.
With Gauri Shankar, they don't do that. You can't do that because Gauri Shankar is a
forbidden place to eat.
Well, but it's in the Himalayas, so it wouldn't be possible to walk around it. You can only come up to it and see
it. It's a range.
Yeah, it's part of a range, right? And Gauri Shankar is kind of behind the ranges, and it's not even today. Trekkers and people don't go into that area of Nepal very much. And no one's allowed to climb there, so there's not any of these climbing expeditions that are going to Mount Everest. And it's if you're going to Mount Everest, you're not going to see Gauri Shankar. You're not going to be in that area. You can't even get there because you would have to go over this very high pass to get there in the Rolwaling Himal. So it's just my theory that Mount Kailash and Gauri Shankar could have some ancient cities inside. Perhaps even Vimanas are kept there.
There's a lot of UFO sighting in that area, like hundreds of them.
Is that right? Yeah, right. So, when people are seeing UFO sightings in Tibet and Nepal and stuff, perhaps those UFOs are coming from Mount Kailash or from Gauri Shankar, or from other places too. Particularly in Tibet, there's very many remote mountains and high mountains, and you have a lot of strange stories there of Shangri-La and Shambhala, which is the Buddhist stories of a paradise, and the masters are there, and those stories also include the Vimanas, the ancient technology from the ancient times that's been preserved, and you're going to have certain priests and families who are taking care of these things for many generations, for thousands of years even. And sometimes they come out and they interact, they're humans, or most of them look like human beings, but you won't know if you're talking to them. They're educated. The stories of Mount Shasta, they would come into a town, they would have nuggets of gold.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and even some stories are they would come to some of the early settlements, and back then you could always bring gold, and they would weigh it, and then you could go to a store and buy things with gold.
Okay.
So, yeah, this could easily have happened in the Himalayas too.
Okay.
There's a very interesting story that takes place in China, in the Tian Shan range, that was told by a Danish explorer named Henning Haslund.
Okay.
And he wrote several books. One was called Men and Gods in Mongolia.
Okay.
And the other one was called Tents in Mongolia.
Okay.
And we republished both those books. And in the Men and Gods in Mongolia, he tells a very curious story that's also like Mount Shasta or Mount Kailash.
Okay.
And they're in a part of kind of Western Mongolia, and where China is coming, and it seems to be part of the southern Altai Himalaya.
Okay.
Which is in the really Western Mongolia.
Okay.
And that goes into China as well. And they were staying with a Chinese governor, kind of warlord of this region, and they're a big caravan of people. He was with Sven Heiden, so they're traveling with yaks and camels, but they have equipments and things. And they're staying with him as guests, and they have some magazines from Europe. And it's the 1920s, and early 1930s.
Okay.
And they're showing him the magazines, and there's some photographs of airplanes and things.
Okay.
Which was new to this Chinese
governor.
He'd
never seen airplanes.
He hadn't seen an airplane before, and he was very interested in those, and he was like, this is great. And they fly, and then Henning Haslund saying, yeah, we have these now, and the government, so we're building these, you can fly to places. And the Chinese governor then tells him this strange story, and he says, I want to get one of these airplanes because we have a mountain over here, a very strange mountain, and I want to go to the top of it because no one can come to the top of this mountain, and that there's something strange happening on the top of that mountain. And Henning Haslund asked him, really, what is so strange about this mountain? And the Chinese governor tells him that, well, people here have tried to climb up to the top of the mountain, and it's not like Mount Everest with, impossible to climb. This is a mountain that,
Which mountain?
We don't know the name of it.
Okay, we don't know the name. You think it's Mount Kailash?
No, it's not. It's not Mount Kailash.
Because it is.
It's a different mountain. Yeah, it's a different mountain farther north.
Okay.
Or Mongolia, but it's like Mount Kailash.
Okay.
Or Mount Shasta.
Okay.
And what happens there? The story he told was that people try to climb the mountain, and even he has sent people. And it's a high mountain; it will take them some days. But whenever they get towards the top of the mountain, they suddenly
they pass away.
They pass out. They pass out, and they find themselves back at the bottom.
What?
Yeah. So, and they think there was some kind of city.
Okay.
Up on top of this mountain.
Okay.
This is what he thinks.
Okay.
And they suspect, and maybe they've seen some lights and things on there.
Okay.
Like it's some UFO landing place or something.
Okay.
And you have many stories like this in South America too, by the way. And so his problem is that no one can go up there because As soon as they get near the top, they pass out,
Okay.
and then they're not hurt,
Okay.
but they find
They
themselves back at the bottom. I mean,
sort of transported them down.
yeah, they've been transported back to the bottom as some day at 1 or 2 days away back to the bottom, and they wake up and they don't know what's happened to them.
Okay.
And they cannot get to the top of this mountain.
Okay.
And the governor believes that if he has an airplane, he can then just fly there and see what's there, because it's baffling him, and it's a big mystery that he wants to solve.
Okay. But you don't think this is Mount Kailash?
It's not Mount Kailash, and it's not Gauri-Shankar. It's a different mountain, even farther up.
Farther up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, in South America, I've spent a lot of time in South America. There's stories like this there too.
Okay.
And of certain mountains and high mountain lakes where this similar thing happens. They get there, but then they find that they pass out and they find themselves back down at the bottom of the mountain. It's somewhere.
Where in South America?
It's in Peru and Bolivia.
In Peru.
Yeah, around Lake Titicaca and that area where you have high mountains.
Okay.
You have a range on the west side, the east side of Lake Titicaca, going towards the Amazon.
Okay.
And in Bolivia they call it the Royal Range.
Royal Range.
And you see it, but Lake Titicaca itself is on what's called the Altiplano, the high plain.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's a big, vast area.
Okay.
And the lake is there, Lake Titicaca, which can be, parts of that are very deep.
Okay. 800
feet deep.
Okay.
In the northern parts of the lake. Very, very deep. The southern parts of the lake are more shallow, and there's only a few hundred feet deep, say.
Okay.
And it's in those areas where Bolivian archaeologists and others believe that there are cities underwater, sunken cities, that were somehow swallowed up in some cataclysm. And there are megalithic cities and things like that.
Okay.
But it's in that area where, people are trying also to find these mountains. A lot of UFOs are seen in this area.
Okay.
Also, UFOs are seen coming out of some lakes, including Lake Titicaca.
Lake Titicaca.
Yeah, usually very, very late at night, at 4 in the morning.
Okay.
You drive 2 hours before dawn. At that, really, when everyone is sleeping, then UFOs come out of the lake. Sometimes people say they've witnessed that. There's another lake near Cusco that also has this legend. It's well known that this lake has UFOs.
Okay. So thank you so much for coming here. It's been amazing having you, and I've always been dying to talk to you. Thank you.
Well, thanks. It's been great talking to you.